In my previous video on management, I talked about the basic four functions of management. Actually, I mentioned five. Staffing is specifically in project management. It's very important. But all managers, regardless of the functional area they're in, will plan, they'll organize, they lead, and they control. In order to do that, there are certain types of skill sets that managers absolutely have to possess. And that's what I want to talk about in this video clip. Those skill sets actually can fall in three basic categories, I think. One is technical. Another, second, it would be human skills. And the third would be conceptual skills. The idea of technical skills simply is that technology are tools. Knowing how the processes are to be done, with what and how and who, etc. Those are the technical skills, and regardless of the area any manager is involved in, they really have to have these technical skill sets to do a really effective job. The technical skills are such that you just simply, if you don't know how something is to be done, what it is to be done, and why it needs to be done, you're behind the eight ball, and you really can't fake out the people that you're working with or working under you for any particular period of time, simply because if you don't understand, how can you explain to them why, how, etc.? Then that's so critically important. You absolutely have to have human skills in project management. This is absolutely essential. You must have the ability to be a good leader, to be able to motivate people, to get along with people, not only on the team, but also the stakeholders and anybody else who is really heavily involved in the project. You absolutely have to have it. If you can't deal with solving people problems, dealing with interpersonal relationships, being accepting of other people, you're simply just going to be behind the eight ball. And finally is the conceptual skills, the ability to think and to think well. Two basic categories of thinking that you absolutely have to have. Number one, you have to be a good critical thinker, somebody who has enough analytical skill set that you can figure out what is really the situations that you're dealing with or managing. If you can't do that, don't try. That's all I can say. Likewise, equally important, you have to have the ability to generate ideas, to be a creative thinker. In my information systems classes, I always take a couple of lectures to talk about the importance of critical thinking and critical thinking. For a manager, I cannot tell you how terribly important this is. Because as a manager, the roles you're going to play, number one, you're going to be an information system. You're going to be informing people what needs to be done, who needs to do it, how's it to be done, when is it to be done, etc. These are things that you absolutely have to be able to convey to people. You have to be you'll be working with people. Interpersonal is so critically important. As a project team manager, you're going to be the figurehead. You're going to be the leader. You're going to be the person who is the team looks to, that the stakeholders look to. You are going to be the person, the point person for the project. And as a project manager, you really need to develop some great interpersonal skills. You're going to be the liaison between anybody outside the project and the people in the project. So it's so important that you have this ability. You're going to have to be able to disseminate information clearly, very, very important. You're going to have to be able to monitor the situation, the performance of everybody on the team that's going to be working under you, as well as the stakeholders that you're working with. Watch, listen carefully. Good communication starts with listening well as being able to pass on the information. You have to be a good communicator to do this. Spokesperson, you're going to be out in front of people. One of the things that project managers absolutely have to be able to do is to speak to the customer base. There will always be a client for a project, somebody, and we'll talk about this in the episode, soon to becoming video. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to, in a sense, be able to be the entrepreneur, the person who's the creative person, innovative person. You have to be able to allocate resources within. You've got to make decisions about who gets what, when, where, why. That's so important. You have to be able to, unfortunately, handle disturbances when they happen. They will happen. There's no question about that. And so you have to be able to deal with that. And you have to be able to negotiate. Oftentimes in a project, you're going to have to be able to work with other people to give and take. And so these kinds of things are just so critically important. Okay. The decisions that you make are going to be, well, some of them will be simple. You'll have some what we call programmable decisions. It's like setting a schedule. And when you set a schedule, you know who can do what and when it needs to be done, what needs to be done, and how it needs to be done, so you can pretty much fill that gap. But you're also going to have some decisions that you probably won't happen. And you're going to have to be able to analyze things. You're going to have to be able to make a good judgment. And you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to be adaptive because things will change, and there'll be lots of different processes. We'll talk about how to deal with change and change management here in a bit, but it's just so critically important. So as a project manager, these are the kinds of things you can expect that will be expected of you, I guess is the easiest way for me to put this. One, you're going to have to be able to take ownership of the project. The project is going to be your baby. You're the person who's going to be responsible for it. You're the person who says, okay, this is my project. One of the critical skills of a good leader is commitment to task. And you have to have commitment to task. A project manager, good project manager, has to be proactive. You cannot be reactive. Obviously, you can't be inactive. You wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be hired in the first place. But you must be proactive. In other words, seeking out situations before they ever become problematic. This is what any good manager does. You have to be a great planner. We're going to be talking a lot about the plan, what goes into the project plan, and it's very, very complex, yet it's very, very essential that it's done well. You're going to have authority, but you shouldn't be you should not be an authoritarian. Let's just put it that way. Don't be a boss. Be a leader. Don't sit in an office and tell people what to do. It's the worst thing you could ever do. Be out there, be in the forefront. You have to be there. You have to be decisive about what needs to be done. You have to be able to express to people why. I can't stress enough the importance of being a good communicator. Students probably get tired of me talking about the necessity of being a good communicator if you're a good project manager. One of my great failings is I don't communicate probably as well as I should with people. When I was a department chair once upon a time, that was one of the people who said, well, you assume that we know something we don't. And so even for this class, I know some of you probably are feeling that way. I'm going to try to make things as clear as I can in the next few weeks where we're headed. Again, this project is not going to be so... how can I say this? I'm not trying to make this terribly difficult. I haven't tried to inundate you with a lot of work. I'm not going to try to inundate you with a lot of work. There'll be videos you have to watch. And like I said earlier in the introductory video, I'm going to quiz you over some of the material that's in these videos, as well as some of the material in the text, so be prepared. Anyway, a good leader leads by example. Back to what I'm really talking about for project management skills. You have to be a diplomat. You have to be able to motivate people. You have to be able to delegate and really take sound, good judgment. You have to be a good thinker. So the skill sets, it may sound like this is an awful lot, but to be honest with you, it's not. It's something that's very doable, and it's something you should be able to do without any particular problem. So I hope this video helps.